My mother-in-law threw my suitcases onto the lawn and told me I would never be good enough for her son. 5 years later, I walked into a board meeting and watched her face turn white as a sheet. She had no idea I was about to become her boss. But I need to tell you this story from the beginning, because some things gain meaning not just from what happened, but from how they happened. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 52 years old, and if you'd asked me 5 years ago where I'd be today, I would have laughed. Because 5 years ago, standing in front of my 3-bedroom house in Portland, Oregon, with my suitcases scattered across the lawn, I thought my life was truly over. Linda Carter. I'll never forget that name. My mother-in-law. Or I should say, my former mother-in-law. 68 years old, senior director at Tech Vision Solutions, always with perfect hair, perfect makeup, and that perfect condescending smile. The woman who made me feel not good enough for 25 years. "David, my son deserved so much better," she once whispered during Thanksgiving dinner when I reached out to hold his hand, as if I couldn't hear her, but I heard. I heard every single time. David and I got married in 1998. I was 27, he was 29. We'd met at university in Austin, Texas. He was studying computer engineering. I was in graphic design. We were young, in love, and the future looked bright. Linda was against it from the start. "My son is an engineer," she said during our engagement. "His wife should have career ambitions, not just artistic dabbling." Artistic dabbling. That's how she saw me. We got married anyway, moved to Portland. David started climbing in the tech sector. I did freelance design work. We didn't have children. We couldn't. And with each passing year, the way Linda looked at me grew colder, as if I'd lost my value as the woman who couldn't give her son grandchildren. "How's Sarah's work going?" she'd ask at family gatherings, with that subtle but sharp tone of dismissal in her voice. "Still messing around with those little design projects?" Little design projects. The work I'd spent years doing, designing logos and websites for clients. Yes, I wasn't getting rich, but I was happy. Or I thought I was happy. Everything started changing in 2020. The pandemic, everyone was home, and David's company went remote. Linda called David frequently during that time. "Just checking in," she'd say. But I could hear them talking on the phone for hours. I didn't know exactly what they discussed, but I noticed David's behavior toward me changing. "You don't understand, Sarah," he said one evening when I was excitedly telling him about landing a new client. "That's not what a real career looks like. What you do is hobby work. Hobby work." He was using Linda's words. In March 2022, David came home and dropped the bomb. "I want a divorce." I just sat there, at the kitchen table with my half-finished coffee cup in my hand. "What?" I said, as if I was hearing the word for the first time. "This marriage is holding me back," he said. Those were Linda's words. Definitely her words. I deserve more. Someone who understands me, who supports me. Don't I support you? My voice was trembling. "I've been supporting you for 25 years, David." "No, Sarah, you create dependency. Mom was right. You were never the right person for me." That was the moment. The moment I heard that sentence, I knew 25 years had gone down the drain. Linda had won. She'd finally gotten what she wanted. The divorce process turned into a nightmare. David had 3 lawyers. I had none. I had no money. What I earned as a freelance designer barely kept me afloat. The house was in David's name. Joint accounts were under his control. And Linda? She was there at every step, coaching David on what to say, how to act, planning how to destroy me. June 2022. The court decision came down. The house was seized. Joint assets went to David. Me? I got a total of $47 and 30 days to vacate by the end of July. 25 years of marriage rewarded with $47. Linda was at the house that day. David was at work, of course, leaving the dirty work to his mother. She watched me pack my suitcases, sitting on the couch, sipping her coffee. "You never belonged in this family, Sarah," she said in a soft voice. But the softness was deceptive. Poison flows softly, after all. David deserves better. He always did. When I carried my last suitcase down and walked toward the door, she opened it and threw my suitcases out one by one. "Go," she said, "and never come near my son again." My suitcases were scattered on the lawn. My clothes, my photos, small pieces of my life spread everywhere. Neighbors were watching from behind windows. Linda slammed the door, and there I was, 52 years old, alone with my suitcases on the lawn. Can you picture this scene? 52 years old, your life on the lawn. If you think justice needs to be served here, hit that like button, because this story is going to end very differently. That night I slept in my car, a 2008 Honda Civic. It hadn't been my house to begin with, but now I had no home at all. I parked in a Walmart parking lot. When a security guard came and woke me up, I just begged him for a few more hours. He let me. I think he saw the desperation on my face. The first week was hell. I had no friends. Linda had driven them away from me for years. Sarah's friends aren't suitable for David's career, she'd say. And like a fool, I'd listened. My family was far away, in Michigan. What could I tell them? My 25-year marriage is over, and now I'm sleeping in my car's back seat. I can't do this, I told myself. It can't end like this. I went to Starbucks. They had free Wi-Fi. My laptop still worked. Thank God. At least they'd let me take that. And I noticed something. There was huge demand for tech consultants, especially small businesses. They needed help with digital transformation, but couldn't afford big consulting firms' fees. I was a graphic designer, but I'd spent years listening to David's projects. System integration, user experience, data migration. I knew these things, theoretically at least. I had $47. I bought a domain, SMITCHELL Consulting, $12. Website template, $15, the remaining $20 for a few days' food. And I posted on LinkedIn, $47, a domain, and unshakable belief. Have you ever dared to start with so little? If you love second chances, hit like, because Sarah's story is about to knock on Linda's door very soon. Affordable tech consulting for small businesses. I make your digital transformation simple, understandable, and budget-friendly. The first client came 2 days later, a small cafe owner in Portland. His website had crashed, he needed help. He offered $200. To me, it was a fortune. I solved the problem, learned from YouTube, used my old design knowledge, and rebuilt the website in 3 days. The client was thrilled, and he recommended me to his friends. By the end of August, I'd moved out of my car into a small studio apartment. It was in a bad neighborhood, $600, but it had a roof. It had warm water. I'd have a bed. In September, I had 3 more clients. By November, 6. By January 2023, I was making $3,500 a month. For the first time, I could breathe, but I was still angry. Linda's face was still in my mind. That smile. Go and never come near my son again. I didn't want to see David, but sometimes I'd check his profile on social media. He looked happy. At dinners with Linda, he had a new girlfriend. Of course, a young corporate executive. Linda had probably approved. Meanwhile, I worked quietly. Every day, every night. Clients were recommending me. Business owners, entrepreneurs, even some mid-sized companies wanted to work with me. I raised my rates, improved quality, and I hired one consultant, then another. June 2023. It had been exactly 1 year. SMITCHELL. Consulting was now a real company. I had 5 employees. We'd rented a small office in Portland, and a big prospect reached out to us. Cascade Digital Group. A mid-sized tech firm, they wanted a comprehensive digital transformation project, a $275,000 project. This was a game changer for us. I went to the meeting. Their CTO, project manager, and 2 senior directors were there. I gave our presentation, our approach, methodology, past successes. They were impressed. "We'd like to work with you, Ms. Mitchell," the CTO said. "But first we need to check your references." Standard procedure. "Of course," I said. "Whatever you need." We won the project, and that $275,000 took the company to the next level. Bigger office, more employees, bigger clients. By early 2024, Mitchell Consulting was one of the fastest-growing tech consulting firms in Portland. We had 32 employees. Annual revenue had reached $2.1 million, and one of our biggest clients had become Tech Vision Solutions. Yes, the company where Linda worked. November 2024. An email came from Tech Vision. Meeting request for acquisition discussions. They wanted to buy our company, make SMITCHELL, consulting a division of TechVision. The figure they offered, $8.2 million. My heart stopped, not just because of the money. TechVision, the company where Linda Carter had worked for 15 years, the company where she was a senior director. I consulted my lawyer. "This is an opportunity, Sarah," he said, "but you decide." Are you emotionally ready? Was I ready? To work at the same company as Linda? To technically be her boss? "Let's go to the meeting," I said. "But we'll have conditions." December 2024, the first meeting. We're at TechVision's sleek headquarters in glass-walled conference rooms in a large conference hall with a Seattle view. 8 people around the table. Their CEO, CFO, legal counsel, and Linda Carter, Senior Director, Human Resources and Corporate Culture, sitting at the corner of the table looking at her laptop. She didn't even look up when I walked in. She didn't recognize me. 2.5 years had passed. My hair was short now with a professional cut. I wasn't wearing glasses anymore. I used contacts. My suit was expensive, my posture straight, my voice strong. She still remembered me as poor Sarah who wasn't good enough for her son. But now, standing across from her was Sarah Mitchell, CEO of a $2.1 million company. "Ms. Mitchell," said TechVision's CEO, John Reynolds, "welcome. Please sit down. Let me introduce you to our team." He introduced them one by one, CFO, COO, legal counsel. And then, Linda Carter, our Senior Director of Human Resources and Corporate Culture. She'll be in charge of the post-acquisition integration process. Linda looked up, really looked at me for the first time. She smiled, that condescending, professional smile. "Pleased to meet you, Miss Mitchell," she said. "We've heard a lot about your company." Did my voice sound familiar to her? Number. Why would it? To her, I was just a forgotten moment, a character from a forgotten story. "Pleased to meet you, Ms. Carter," I said, my voice calm. A storm was raging inside me, but I showed nothing on the outside. The meeting began. It lasted 2 hours. Acquisition terms, integration plan, employee transfer, brand strategy, professional, cold, business-focused. Linda took notes. "What's SMITCHELL, Consulting's corporate culture?" she asked at one point. "Why are your employees there? Is it just salary or is there a deeper connection?" I looked at her, into her eyes. She still didn't recognize me. "Our company," I said slowly, "is a place where people are valued. Not just for what they do, but for who they are. Everyone deserves a chance, Miss Carter, even second chances, because sometimes life judges people unfairly, and we open our doors to those people." There was a moment of silence. Linda frowned, as if looking for another meaning behind the words, but she couldn't find it. "Nice," she said. "Very humane." The meeting ended. We shook hands. John Reynolds said, "Let's meet again in 2 weeks. We'll work out the legal details and present the official offer." "Perfect," I said. As Linda walked toward the door, she said, turning back, "Ms. Mitchell, I don't think I've seen you before. Are you in Portland?" My heart pounded. "Yes," I said. "I've been in Portland for a long time." "Interesting," she said. "Small world." And she left. That night, I sat alone in my office, in front of the window, looking at the city lights. My hands were shaking. 2.5 years, my suitcases on the lawn. Go and never come near my son again. And now? Now I was about to become her boss. Maybe not technically, but in reality, yes. TechVision would acquire SM Mitchell, but I'd set my terms. Remain as CEO, manage the integration process, make structural decisions. They'd said Linda was in charge of integration, so she'd be working with me, directly with me, and she still didn't recognize me. In the following weeks, the formal process began. Legal teams, financial audits, contract negotiations. Linda was at every meeting, professional, efficient, cold. She spoke to me politely, listened to my ideas, took notes. Once after a meeting, she said, "You've really built an impressive company. Where did you start? I mean, funding, first clients, how did it happen?" Something tightened inside me. I started very simply, I said. With $47, a domain, a template, and determination. $47? She smiled. How did you manage to? Sometimes people start with nothing, I said quietly, because they have no other choice, and they either sink or swim. Her smile faded slightly. Yes, she said, I suppose so. January 2025. The contract was signed. SMITCHELL. Consulting officially became a division of Tech Vision Solutions. $8.2 million was deposited into my account. All my employees were protected, given raises. And me? I was now Vice President of Tech Vision's Digital Transformation Division. I was one level above Linda on the organization chart. The first week, I moved into my new office. Corner office, glass walls, view of Seattle Bay. Linda's office was at the end of the hall, executive level but not a corner. A company-wide meet and greet was held. John Reynolds introduced me to everyone. Sarah Mitchell, our Vice President of Digital Transformation. She built her own company from scratch, built one of Portland's most successful consulting firms, and now she's part of the Tech Vision family. Applause, smiles, welcome messages. Linda was there, in the front row, applauding, her professional smile in place. She still didn't recognize me. After the meeting, she approached me. Congratulations, Sarah, she said, now using my first name, not Miss Mitchell. I think you'll fit in well here. Thank you, Linda, I said. It felt strange to use her first name. For years, I'd addressed her as Mrs. Carter. But now we were equals. Or technically, I was above her. Want to grab coffee sometime? She asked. I do meet and greets with new executives. To explain company culture, clarify expectations. Of course, I said. Have your assistant send me your availability. Your assistant. Now I had an assistant. How did I get from suitcases on the lawn to here? The next day we met in Linda's office. It was small, not as nice as mine. There were family photos on the walls. A photo of David, happy young David, and a photo with his new girlfriend. I remembered her name was Amanda. Your son? I asked, looking at the photo. It was a dangerous game, but I couldn't resist. Yes, Linda said proudly. David, he's a very successful engineer. He's working at Intel now. Nice, I said. Is he married? Divorced, Linda said, a slight discomfort in her voice. A few years ago, his wife, well, she wasn't suitable. She was holding my son back. But he's much happier now. Holding my son back. The exact words. The summary of my 25 years. She wasn't suitable. I see, I said, sipping my coffee. Sometimes relationships hold people back. Or they seem to. Absolutely, Linda said. Sarah, it's funny that your name is Sarah. His ex-wife was also Sarah. Sweet girl, but she had no career ambition. She just did little freelance things, never contributed to David's career, actually held him back. My cup trembled in my hand, slightly, but it trembled. Really? I said. Yes, they were together 25 years, just out of inertia. But finally, my son made the right decision for himself. They divorced, and now he's with Amanda, a much more suitable partner, corporate executive. David was lucky, I said quietly, to have a mother like you. Someone who makes the right decisions for him. Linda smiled. As a mother, your son's happiness is more important than anything. I don't know what that poor Sarah is doing now, but I hope she's gotten her life together. That poor Sarah. That's who I was. In her eyes, I was still that helpless, worthless woman. I'm sure she's in a better place now, I said. Sometimes people discover who they are in their darkest moments. Maybe, Linda said, shrugging, but some people never change. Anyway, let's talk about work. The meeting lasted an hour. Expectations, goals, company policies, professional, efficient, cold. And I tried to suppress the anger burning inside me. Linda didn't recognize me. 2.5 years had passed, and she still remembered that poor Sarah, but couldn't see that the successful woman across from her was the same person. Maybe she didn't want to see. February came. The integration process continued. New systems, new processes, team meetings. Linda and I were in the same meetings often. Every time she was polite, professional, and every time she talked about David. "My son got a new promotion," she'd say proudly. "He became a senior engineer at Intel." "Great," I'd say. "He and Amanda got engaged," she'd say another day. "The wedding's in June. I'm so excited." "Congratulations," I'd say, and every time that voice inside me would whisper, Tell her who you are. Watch her face, see the color drain from it." But I didn't tell her, because doing so would give them power. In Linda's eyes, I'd still be the victim. Look, poor Sarah trying to get revenge. Number. If Linda was going to learn the truth, it wouldn't be from my mouth. In mid-March, the company held its annual gala dinner, luxury hotel, live music, 200 people. All the senior executives were there, and families were invited. Linda was there, and David. I saw him from a distance. 54 years old, slightly heavier, hair starting to gray. Amanda was next to him, early 30s, thin, professional looking. My heart raced. I hadn't seen David in 2.5 years. We hadn't spoken since the divorce court. I kept my distance. By the bar, chatting with colleagues, but my eyes kept going to him. Linda was introducing David to office friends. Proud mother. "My son David, senior engineer at Intel." And then someone walked toward me, John Reynolds, with David and Amanda beside him. "Sarah," John said, "I want to introduce you to someone. Linda's son David from Intel. David, Sarah Mitchell, our vice president of digital transformation." Time slowed down. David's eyes met mine, and he recognized me. His face turned white as a sheet. That was the moment. That expression. If you can picture this moment in your mind, hit that like button. But the real shock hasn't happened yet. Keep watching to see Linda's reaction. "Sarah," he said, his voice a whisper. "You..." "Hello, David," I said calmly. I smiled. Professional, cold. "Pleased to meet you." "Do you two know each other?" John asked. "A long time ago," I said. "A very long time ago." David's mouth was open. Amanda was looking at him strangely. "You know each other?" Amanda asked. David stammered. "We... old acquaintances," I said softly. "Right, David?" "In Austin. At university. Long ago." "Yes," David said quickly. He was following my lead. "Yes, university. Long ago." He was lying. For his mother, because he couldn't tell Linda that poor Sarah was now his mother's boss's boss. "Small world," John said, laughing. "Anyway, enjoy your drinks." And he left. David, Amanda, and I stood there, a strange, tense silence. "Sarah," David said in a low voice. It's in the past, David," I said. "You moved on with your life." I moved on with mine. And I think we're both better off. Amanda looked uncomfortable. "Were you college friends?" "Something like that," I said, "but a long time ago." "David, congratulations on your new promotion. Your mother's very proud." "Thank you," David said. His voice was still shaking. "Now, if you'll excuse me," I said. "Other guests are waiting for me." "Have a good evening." And I walked away. My hands were shaking, but I kept my head high. David had seen me, and I'd seen the color drain from his face. But Linda? I spent the rest of the evening watching David and Linda from a distance. David was talking to his mother, Amanda, by their side. From David's gestures, from Linda's shocked expression, I could tell he was telling her something, but I didn't know what he was saying. The next morning, I started my regular work at the office. Meetings, emails, project reviews. A normal day. Around noon, my assistant spoke over the intercom. "Ms. Mitchell, Linda Carter wants to see you. No appointment. She says it's urgent." My chest tightened. "Send her in," I said. Linda walked in. And her face... oh God. Her face was white as a sheet. Just like David's last night. "You," she said. Her voice was trembling. "You're that Sarah." Silence. Long, heavy silence. "Yes," I finally said. "I'm that Sarah." "David told me last night," Linda said. She collapsed into a chair, as if her legs wouldn't hold her. 25 years ago, we were married." "We were married," I said. "You threw my suitcases onto the lawn. You said, 'Go and never come near my son again.' Do you remember now?" Linda's face turned even whiter. "I didn't recognize you," she whispered. "How did I not recognize you?" "Because you never saw me, Linda," I said quietly. "For 25 years you looked at me, but you never saw me. You only saw the woman who wasn't good enough for your son. Poor, unsuccessful, worthless Sarah. But I was never that person. Are you here for revenge?" Linda's voice cracked. "Revenge?" I laughed, a bitter laugh. "No, Linda. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here to survive. I had $47. I slept in my car's back seat, and I had one choice: sink or swim. I chose to swim." "But why didn't you say?" "In the meetings over coffee." "What should I have told you, Linda?" I stood up, walked to the window. "Do you remember me? You're the woman who destroyed my life. Now you're working with me." Should I have said that? Linda's eyes filled with tears. "I wanted what was best for my son." "No," I said, turning to her. "You wanted control. To control your son's life, control his decisions. And I was an obstacle to that control, so you eliminated me." "I was wrong," Linda whispered. For the first time, there was real regret in her voice. "I was wrong, Sarah." "Yes, you were," I said. "But you know what? I should thank you." Linda looked shocked. "What?" "If you hadn't thrown my suitcases onto the lawn, I never would have become this strong. If David hadn't left me, I never would have discovered who I was. For years, I lived as David's wife, as the woman trying to win Linda's approval. But in reality, I was always Sarah Mitchell, and that day, in my car's back seat with $47, I finally met that woman." Linda was crying now, silently, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm not going to fire you, Linda," I said softly. "Because you're actually a good HR director. You're professional, effective, and this company benefits from you. But from now on, when you work with me, you'll see me, the real me, not poor Sarah, Sarah Mitchell. Understood?" Linda nodded, unable to speak. "Go, Linda," I said, "and tell your son I don't wish him ill. I just became stronger. We all should." Linda stood up, stumbled toward the door. She held the doorknob, stopped. "Sarah," she said, turning around, "I want to apologize again. I'm truly, truly sorry." "I know," I said, "and maybe one day I can truly forgive, but not today." Linda left. I stood at the window looking at Seattle Bay. The sky was clear, the water sparkling. And for the first time, truly the first time, I felt free. Revenge? Number. Revenge would mean they could still affect me, but they couldn't affect me anymore, because I was no longer the woman who needed their approval. That evening, I went to my old studio apartment. I still owned it, hadn't sold it. Sometimes I'd go there to think. That small $600 apartment, my first real home, after the car. I sat on the bed, looked at the walls, and I remembered that day. My suitcases on the lawn, $47 in my pocket, the future uncertain. That woman was so scared, so alone, so lost. But that woman didn't give up. And here I am, 52 years old, successful, independent, strong, without anyone's permission, without anyone's approval. I took out my phone. There was a message from David. "Sarah, can we please talk? I owe you so much. At least an apology." I didn't reply. Maybe one day I will. Maybe I won't. Because David is no longer part of my story. He was just a chapter, and I'm writing new chapters now. Linda's face came to mind, that shock, that disbelief, and strangely, I felt sorry for her, because she's still the woman living for her son's approval, for others' perception. Someone living for others, not for herself. I used to be like that, but not anymore. I'm sharing this story with you because maybe you've experienced something similar. Maybe you've been seen as not good enough by someone too. Maybe you've been pushed aside somehow, made to feel worthless, as if your existence was a burden. But here's what I want to tell you. You are enough. You always were enough. That others couldn't see you doesn't diminish your value. Their glasses were broken. Their eyes were closed. And if you're in darkness right now, if your suitcases are on the lawn, if you only have $47, know that there's a way out. It's not easy. It hurts. But it's possible. I did it. You can too. And one day, you'll see their faces turn white too. Don't live for that moment. Live for yourself. But when that moment comes, oh, how sweet it will be. Because the best revenge is living well, being strong, loving yourself, and never, ever, ever needing anyone else's approval. I'm Sarah Mitchell. I'm 52 years old. And finally, truly, I'm free. What's your story? Who belittled you and how did you prove them wrong? Share your story in the comments. This is a safe space. We're all listening to each other. If this story empowered you, hit like, and don't forget to subscribe for more empowering stories. Because every woman's story deserves to be heard.